This is How Do Vaccines Work? My name is Megha Shrivastava. I'm a resident doctor at Mount Sinai. I'm doing preventive medicine residency. Generally, just thinking about our bodies and what happens when we're encountering things. So our body, they're constantly exposed to pathogens. And so pathogens are like bacteria, virus, parasites, fungi that can cause disease. Also, just like we're always exposed to like dust and other particles as well that can sometimes irritate our bodies as well. We'll just go through a general overview of just how our bodies kind of tackle those things. Anywhere we are, we're not going to be able to avoid other little microorganisms. They're always going to be in the world with us. Our bodies have adapted to tackle things, to defend ourselves against things. So we already have our physical barriers, which is our skin, our mucus, cilia are little cells that are like little hairs in like your nose and in like other areas that will just like push things out of your body. So those are like the physical ways your body's already doing things. And then, as you guys probably already have heard of before, our immune system is kind of the larger microscopic world in our body that will fight against pathogens or any like, foreign things that are coming towards our body. So they're doing this constantly, even when you're not sick, even when you're not vaccinated, there's still a lot of different aspects of the immune system, which we won't go so deeply into everything because there's many, many different moving parts. You could just think of it as having many different types of soldiers in your body that are fighting things off. But specifically for talking about vaccines and for our immune system, this is like kind of an example of just what like an organism can be. So this disease causing organism, that can be like a virus, a bacteria, a fungus. It's not always like shaped and looks exactly like this. They come in different shapes and sizes, but essentially like many can look like this. Coronavirus kind of looks like this too. This is like the actual organism. And when we talk about things, there's these little proteins that stick out of those organisms. And vaccines will often extrapolate that little part and just have that little part that's called the antigen. When they're developing the vaccine, they kind of have their own ways of really examining these microscopically and dissecting out like the antigens, or kind of getting that organism to be weakened, a weak version of it. So even when they say a live vaccine, even what's in flu, what's in certain flus, flu vaccines, like the nasal spray, that's like the live vaccine. It's not really fully live. It's not just the organism how it is. They really weaken it and deactivate it, but it's enough that they still have this little body part of that virus or organism so that your body could create ways to tackle it. The key ingredient is the antigens, this little protein part that's not live, but it's a little protein part of the virus that's there to trigger your immune system to create antibodies. This is an example of like measles and flu and chickenpox. These aren't live pictures of what these look like, but they essentially look kind of similar to this, where they have the little spikes, like I said, are like the little proteins that come out. We all have things in our cells, like little proteins in the walls and all of that. It's similar to that, but they're very specific, like a fingerprint for those viruses. When they make these vaccines, what they do is have those little parts or like the dead pathogen, or even like, a dead or like weakened pathogen. So it's never functioning at the way the actual virus functions. And what your body will do is make an antibody. The antibodies are part of your immune system. Your body is building all these soldiers. And whenever anything new comes into our body, it's going to be met with something in our body. Something in our immune system is going to meet that pathogen or that like thing that comes in and be like, what are you? And for our immune system, what'll happen is that certain cells will come see and be like, oh, this is something new. And then they'll start building these antibodies to be like, oh, so I can recognize this next time it comes. So that's our body's memory of being like, I found this new thing, came into my body. We need to have a response to it so that we can get it out of our body. So it enters our body, and then that antibody is created by our own bodies against the little antigens that come. So like for measles, and we already got vaccinated for it. So that's what vaccines do. Sometimes when we get the actual disease, then our body makes its own antibodies, and everybody's body can be a little bit different with it. So that's why we sometimes test for whether you have antibodies. Like for hepatitis B and hepatitis A, sometimes like people don't know whether they've been vaccinated or not. We can like test in the blood and see, oh, you actually have antibodies for it. You already did either have it or you got vaccinated for it. And that vaccination does the same things that being exposed to the direct pathogen does without actually getting sick. Oftentimes, when it's like the full pathogen that has a whole virus or the whole bacteria, it can be a little too strong for our immune system to fully get rid of. Then you get like symptoms and stuff from it. Sometimes when you get a little bit of symptoms from getting a vaccine, especially sometimes if it is a live vaccine, it can trigger your immune system to actually respond. When your nose starts running, when you start coughing, oftentimes that's not really the virus. The virus is trying to like kill your body, basically. Your immune system is responding by being like, oh, I need to secrete more mucus to get it out. And I need to like cough it out more. So oftentimes that's coming from your immune system responding to the virus. And same with the fever. Your body gets really, really hot because it's trying to like make it too hot for that virus to live and to destroy your insides, trying to defend itself from whatever virus you've been exposed to. So even with the flu shot, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I get sick every time, or they feel like they got the flu every time. Oftentimes you're not getting the actual flu. What you're getting is your body reacting to that virus. And it is uncomfortable. And that's why for a lot of people, when they take the shots, for the flu shot, especially because a lot of other shots you don't get actual response to, like you don't get sick from. For the flu shot, I know a lot of people are very concerned about that. You're not getting the actual flu from it. Your body is still getting that defense from it. That little cold that you get is your body reacting to it. And so it's good to, try to get that shot when you have like a day off or right before the weekend where you can rest a little bit. But you can feel assured that those vaccines, it's still doing something. Even getting a little sick, that means that your body is gearing up and getting ready to be protected against that. And you won't be getting a serious flu from it. And I've never encountered anybody that's gotten like hospitalized flu, like really, really serious bad flu from the flu shot. The flu shot will give very mild flu symptoms. I know it sucks to get a cold, but this is what I say, especially if you have other health issues like any heart problems or lung problems, you still want to get vaccinated for everything, because the amount of people I've seen in the hospital that haven't got, and most of them that get like respiratory problems from like COVID or flu or RSV, people who haven't been vaccinated. So it really, really helps you prevent from going in the hospital. You still might get a little bit sick. There's no cure for that, for the common cold yet. Maybe eventually we'll get that, but it'll at least prevent you from something serious, and you want to avoid that. So this is like your antibody. Your body will create antibodies to the vaccine, but it has to be exposed to this vaccine, to the vaccine or the antigen. So vaccines will have this antigen that your body will create antibodies for, and then it's learned to defend it from that. The next time that your body encounters the actual virus, it'll be able to fight it quicker because it'll be like, oh, this is this, I already know it. Your immune system will have easier response to be able to get it out of your body. For a vaccine, it protects you. Mostly it protects you. When they were pushing for everyone to get the COVID vaccine, it's because it also protects other people around you, protects your family. There's so many stories I know of just like one person in the family not getting the vaccine, and then it can spread a lot easier when that happens. And the more people that get vaccinated, this is how we protect people in general. It's good for your whole family, and especially if you have young kids in the house that can't get vaccinated yet, you need to have everybody in that house vaccinated, because those immune systems, if you're capable of getting the vaccine, then you want to make sure you get it so that you can protect yourself and your body that's already strong enough that it can create that defense. And then that defense doesn't even just help you, it helps your relatives and your friends as well, especially those that are very old and very young who have weakened immune systems, and then anybody else who has health issues that cause a weakened immune system like cancer or HIV. So that's a big thing. And then just overall, vaccines are very, very studied. They're studied very deeply. So if the phase 1 is first just like with a handful of people. So these are like the different phases that it goes through before getting approved to you guys. It's like a handful of people and they're like, oh, it's pretty safe. So then we can go on to phase 2. If it's like, no, people are having bad responses already at any moment in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, if they're bad responses, they stop it immediately and they go back to the drawing board prior to phase 1 to be like, we have to come up with something different, or we have to really change it so that it's safer for people to use. Phase 1 is like a handful of people, then they expand it to like hundreds of people and thousands of people. And phase 3 is like hundreds of thousands of people they test for before it's approved for broader use. And then there's always ongoing surveillance, ongoing monitoring of how these vaccines are responded to by everyone. So yeah, I think a lot of people get concerned because the newer vaccines, like obviously there's going to be less people compared to like the polio vaccine, like things that have been around for decades where everyone is vaccinated with it. We still have enough people to really see it's still a ton of people prior to you getting it that have been tested with it. That includes phase 1 is really healthy people. Phase 2 and 3, they start testing it with people who have other medical conditions. And they're always, before being approved, for people that, if they're saying that it's safe for people that have like HIV and or cancer and things like that, then it's been tested in those people before. Vaccines can really work, and each one is a little different. This is the way that we don't see measles as much, the way we see measles when people don't get vaccinated. We don't see polio at all anymore. It's been completely eradicated because of the vaccines. All of these things, it's not like the viruses decided to just disappear. It's because we got vaccinated for it. So they're still around. And even like all of you guys, I'm sure, have been vaccinated for something. Like your body has already been creating that defense mechanism. Generally, about RSV causes 60,000 to 160,000 hospitalizations every year in the US. And it can cause 6,000 to 10,000 deaths. So it's definitely something, especially for older people, and this is why it's approved for people who are 60 and older, as well as for babies, to be very aware of. When you're over 60, and especially if you have any heart problems or lung problems, you have a risk for catching this and having serious disease from it. Because as you get older, your immune system does get weaker. They're two different brands, really. They're the same, very similar effectiveness. It's called Arexvy and Abrysvo are the two different ones. You don't need to know those names. You can just say the RSV vaccine when you go to clinic, but they're very effective in preventing severe disease. So even if you've had RSV, if you've been told that you had RSV recently or in the past, make sure you just don't have symptoms. I think in general for getting vaccines, like if you're really sick at that time, your immune system's a little weaker. So it's just better to just wait until you're not super sick. Like if you have a mild cough, that's okay. But if it's like you have COVID, you have a fever, or still getting over a cold that you just had a few days ago, you should wait just like a week or two. Even if you've had RSV in the past, you can get the vaccine. Same with COVID, same with RSV and all of these things. Like I said, even if you've had it, your antibodies may not have specifically like been created for the types of pathogens that are out there. And sometimes people don't create those antibodies just from having the cold. So that's why with the vaccine, you definitely make those antibodies because they're sending you that specific antigen. That's why it's really important to get vaccinated. A list of free clinics. So you always want to have a primary care doctor, no matter what. This one is on the Health Action Center website. So just remembering, like, if you are worried about insurance, you don't have insurance, talk to them about it too. And there's ways to get you seen even if you don't have insurance. So we want to make sure you guys are getting the care that you need. General good practices, make sure you wash your hands. Wash your hands before every meal. Definitely isolating if you're sick, like just even distancing a little bit, wearing a mask if you're sick to just protect others as well as yourself so you don't get like another sickness, because that can always happen on top of a cold. And having COVID rapid tests at home and N95s and face masks, and Smart University with the tabling, they have that available, and the Health Action Center has it available. So you guys should all have COVID rapid tests at home, even if you feel like nobody has COVID right now. It's good to always be prepared. Even if you're the healthiest person ever, you still need to see the doctor at least once a year. Make sure you're getting up to date information on everything and making sure you're on top of it.